You know, we started raising annuals last year, and initially my plan was to kind of smother out some of the toxic fescue we had here, and so I thought I'd start with some annuals, and the cattle are performing so well on them and liking it so much, and it's filling that summer slump with some really great forage, and you know, I've decided that I'm not going to transition entirely into perennials because I like these annuals so much. Now I'm still trying to mess around a little bit with the mixes of annuals I do to see what the cattle like and what they perform best on. But it is great volume of biomass. It does great things for the soil as far as the diversity of the types of crops that I grow. It feeds the organisms in the ground. It's just a really great way to extend the grazing season through summer at a point where previously we would have dry fescue, you know, and we wouldn't have any real biomass. So we had difficulty not grazing it down to the ground, and this gives them more food than they can eat, and I really like that about it. This is an example of some of the diversity we have in this field. This is a brassica. I can't remember whether that's a rape or a kale. This is a sun hemp. I think this is a millet, some sorghum Sudan, and you can see the cowpeas here. They add a lot of nice protein, but also nitrogen into the mix. Prior to getting into this rotational grazing thing, and particularly with annuals, I would have thought the same thing. I would have thought that this is a lot of wasted forage, and what I've learned is that the cattle come in here and they eat the best of the forage, and they get the great growth opportunity, great nutritional opportunity. They trample some of it, maybe even half of it in some cases, but all this material goes onto the ground, lays on the ground, prevents erosion, helps to feed the soil microorganisms, helps to feed the earthworms, and as it breaks down, it just holds those nutrients in the ground. We'll follow this crop with a cool season crop immediately after we're done with this pasture. And so all of these nutrients that come out of this soil, come out of this biomass, will be absorbed by the next crop. One of the things that's nice about this is it regrows, the sorghum Sudan in particular, and the cattle love to graze that regrowth. So we do back fence so that we can get adequate regrowth before they get turned back in this. So we'll get more than one grazing off of this annual. But the benefit is, as they're trampling that, it's being pushed into the ground to feed the microorganisms and create a more diverse environment, an environment that has much more organic matter in the soil. It retains rainwater much more effectively as a result of that. It doesn't erode, and the next crop that comes through there grows more effectively because of that crop that has been kind of pushed down into that. And it's pretty easy to plant through that. We use a grain drill that we rent from the Soil and Water Conservation District. It has good sharp cutters that separate the ground in a no-till sort of a situation. Doesn't disturb much of that top cover. The seeds go right in there and pop up through and receive those nutrients throughout that growing period. So it's a very beneficial sort of a process that we go through. I think every time we replant this and graze it, more of the nitrogen is processed through the cow, goes back onto the fields. You've got the biomass that's covering the soil surface, and all of the little microbes and worms and things like that that are now prospering in our fields when we really didn't have a lot of that prior to planting all of this.